if someone is looking for a solution you offer, but if they still can't find you, then nothing else you are doing really matters. You need to be visible where your audience actually looked, but also visibility alone is not enough, unfortunately. When people discover you, it should be clear who you are and why you are worth trusting. That moment of recognition is what turns visibility into trust and trust into action and conversion, I believe. Hi, I am Bengu Sarica Dincer, and this is SEO in 2026 Additional Insights.
Bengu, what's your number one SEO tip for 2026?
I would say you should treat your brand as a multi-platform entity in 2026 because discovery and trust now form across search engines, social platforms, communities, AI assistants, and everywhere that I don't recall right now. You should be visible everywhere, but also be discoverable for your audience.
So be visible everywhere, but be discoverable for your audience. Is that what treating your brand as a multi-platform entity actually means?
Yeah. Actually, being everywhere is kind of easy, but being discoverable is not the same thing, in my opinion. Because, AI summaries and search engines and other platforms use your website as a content source. But if they and users don't recall what is your solutions, what are you doing, then it is not about discoverability, I think.
So what's an example of being somewhere but not being discoverable?
I think being visible is like when, let's say, Perplexity summarizes a content from your piece of website and don't mention it is because of your solution related content, then it is, yes, you are still visible there because Perplexity discovers you. That's true. But when that user, Perplexity user, doesn't know about your brand in that content, then you are not discoverable actually.
So how do you add the context? Are you actually advocating in every piece of content that you produce, just incorporate a subtle mention of your brand and what you do as well?
Kind of. I mean, I'm talking about being consistent about your recognition as a brand.
Your recognition as a brand. Okay. So what does that mean in terms of a piece of content that you perhaps publish, and maybe you've got an AI search engine that takes that piece of content and displays that content within their results? How can you try to optimize your discoverability as a brand within that?
You should be clear who you are and who you are known for. Then you can be sure to be worth trusting for your audience. I'm talking about the content side, by the way. But content format can be changed, for the variety of pages that you have on your website. So you should always make sure that your content is providing consistency in each format. So this is what I mean, but I'm not sure if I could express it properly.
Yeah, sure. So I understand what you mean. So be consistent across the various platforms that your brand happens to be mentioned on, featured in.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess to ensure that your brand logos, your name of your brand, obviously, any descriptive text that's part of your brand is consistent across various platforms. You mentioned search engines, social platforms, AI assistants, niche communities as well when we talked about it beforehand. What search engines are key in 2026, and why do they like multi-platform entities?
It depends on your audience's preference. If they use Bing, then your main focus should be on Bing. Or if people are using Google, your audience as users, then you should focus on Google. let's say your market is Russia, I don't know, then it could be an edge case, but then your main search engine that you should focus would be Yandex, I guess. So it totally depends on your market and your audience.
Okay. And sometimes you're not necessarily sure where your audience are. So I would assume that you're talking about looking in your analytics first of all before deciding on which platform to optimize.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So we talked about different platforms there as well, social as well. What about social platforms? Which social platforms are key in 26, and how do you go about ensuring that the brand is optimized there?
I think YouTube and Instagram Reels and TikTok are main social platforms for users because people usually search from that kind of platforms for decide where to go or decide what to buy. And it is accurate for B2B and SaaS environment as well, which is kind of interesting. I know it sounds interesting, but so far in my experience, TikTok is really powerful social platform for SaaS cases.
Or for sales cases, sorry, you said.
SaaS cases, I said.
SaaS. Okay, so got
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay, so for SaaS B2B. Okay, so where does that fit into the customer journey? Is that initial discoverability? Is it someone knowing about the brand to begin with, and perhaps going to social platforms to do some further research?
Yeah, it generally sits on the initial discoverability because people search for not brands, but for their needs on those kind of platforms mostly. That's why you should be discoverable on those platforms. I mean, I recommend to be being discoverable there. And they don't know about your brand or what you are offering when they see your content on platforms. But if you are consistent and provide really helpful content to your audience, then they will start to enter your funnel, I believe.
You talk about being consistent on a platform like TikTok. If you're a B2B brand, if you're a SaaS brand, how do you do that, and how do you make it consistent and interesting? Because surely if you want to be successful on TikTok, you want to be publishing maybe at least 3 times a week or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't it easy just to get to dry up in terms of content?
No, it's not.
No? Okay.
It's not easy, but nothing is easy.
Okay, so what kind of content should a B2B SaaS brand be publishing on a consistent basis on TikTok?
I don't know. Again, it depends on their I think goals, I guess. But I would probably create and publish product-related contents, which could be reaching for very niche audiences, which is okay because good content is not for everyone, I believe. So when you create solution-oriented product-related content, then maybe small portion of users will come to your funnel, but also they would be probably very high quality users. Like they will have very big potential for your sales funnel. So yeah, I can't say that a single solution could be helpful to create a content for social platforms, but I believe that it really depends on your business goals and your solutions, I guess.
And should the same content be published in multiple places? Because obviously TikTok, you're talking about maybe a 9:16 video, perhaps a video that's just 1 minute long or so, perhaps some text within there as well, and it tends to look a certain way and not necessarily work as effectively or look as integral to another platform like LinkedIn or X or Facebook or something like that. So should you be publishing TikTok videos or videos that have been created specifically for TikTok elsewhere?
Honestly, I don't think that their audiences are the same because LinkedIn audience is very different from TikTok. But also, if you believe that those users have same interests and same needs about your brands, then yeah, you can repurpose the content that you created for one platform and try if that brings performance for you. But I don't think it would work. At least in my case, it doesn't work. So yeah, repurposing can work for similar platforms like Instagram and TikTok. But LinkedIn and Blue Sky, let's say, are very different platforms rather than TikTok. Yeah, it's not very easy job to create content for each platforms, but also you can experiment if same content works for you or not, and then decide what to do.
And you also touched on AI assistants as well. So where do AI assistants fit in when it comes to treating a brand as a multi-platform entity?
It perfectly compounds with search engines, I think, because both learn everything from the web, from the social platforms, communities, and everything on the internet. It actually comes as an initial discoverability platform, and then it directs people to search on our traditional search engines in most cases. The thing I strongly say all the time is people don't Google and decide, or they don't just use one platform to decide what to do. But AI assistants are very helpful to make their time easier to decide. But also, it's not the final point, I believe, which brings us to another discussion. Yeah, it's very helpful tools for users and also for us to make our efforts valuable. But also, if they don't bring really great value as traditional search engines, then you don't need to chase their like revenue attributions, because yes, people are using those tools, but in most cases, for now, AI tools are not the final touch point for revenue.
Interesting that you say you don't have to chase revenue attribution. But of course, many stakeholders and organizations are looking for the impact that different points have on the user journey. And a lot of what you're referring to can be early stage in the user journey and not the last referring channel. But it doesn't mean necessarily that they're not key, they're not important, they don't have a significant impact on the customer choosing to actually make that purchase. So what are your thoughts on attribution? How do you actually allocate a likely impact of each step along the way?
It's the question that I got from lots of people, like very most frequently. But I don't count a single metric for a success when it comes to a user journey which is not linear. So I chase some signals like branded searches, brand-led searches. If they increase, then there I can talk about people are searching for my brand. This means our strategy is working for that. Also, higher direct and returning traffic means something for me. Also, better conversion rates from organic and non-paid channels. But I don't actually measure the success with one metric for this messy user journey. So I care about making people search for our brand's name and trust us faster, and then convert with less friction. Of course, conversion rates and revenue are very important metrics to track success, but now it's more complicated than before.
Oh, you certainly shared a few metrics there that were useful and given the listeners something to actually think about in terms of how to measure what we're talking about today. So, Bengu, what's the key takeaway from the tip you shared today?
I would say if someone is looking for a solution you offer, but if they still can't find you, then nothing else you are doing really matters. You need to be visible where your audience actually looked, but also visibility alone is not enough, unfortunately. When people discover you, it should be clear who you are and why you are worth trusting. That moment of recognition is what turns visibility into trust and trust into action and conversion, I believe.
Bengu Sarica Dincer is SEO manager at DesignModo. Find out more over at designmodo.com. Bengu, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2026.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It was a big pleasure for me.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2026, the book, over at SEOin2026.com.